Dr. Pence, take it away.
All right, I was asked to introduce myself. Thank you. So, my name is Dr. Pence. I did my residency here at Stanford. I went off to Baylor, Houston, and here for my fellowships in spinal cord injury. Came back, ended up at the Palo Alto VA. Did a lot of work there for about a little over 3 years. And then recently came back into Valley Med and have started there as one of the spinal cord injury docs. So today we're going to be talking about something that's really important to me because this makes a big difference in all of our patients' lives and all of your lives on actually remaining mobile. Okay, so we're going to talk about really shoulder pain after a major injury like this. So I have no financial disclosures, but if you find any, let me know. I'm happy to go into them. All right, so what we're going to talk about today is really why is shoulder dysfunction after a spinal cord injury really an important issue we should all pay attention to from day one. I want you guys to understand kind of the basic anatomy of the shoulder, and then how can we prevent this shoulder pain after spinal cord injury. All right, so shoulder pain after spinal cord injury. I want to look at these numbers a little bit. So general population, shoulder pain at any point in time, it's about 6.9 to 26% general population. Spinal cord injury population, you're looking at 30% to 73% at any given time. So why is that? Well, because for spinal cord injury, you use your arms for everything. So that becomes your independent mobility. That becomes your transfers. It becomes all your overhead activities and all your activities of daily living. All right, so why do we have shoulder pain? Another one. There's the chair. Right there. Okay. So, shoulder pain and spinal cord injury. So there's been a lot of studies in this, okay? So I'm just going to brush on a few of them that really show how important this is. We see that the intra-articular pressure, meaning the pressure actually in the shoulder, is about 2 times that of your arterial pressure during the transfer, meaning that you aren't actually getting blood flow to the area during your transfers. Muscle imbalance in a manual wheelchair user correlates drastically to shoulder pain. Okay, and we know after multiple different types of spinal cord injury, the muscle imbalance is very, very different for each patient. Poor transfer techniques are very much so associated with shoulder pain. It makes sense to everybody, but we all have our different ways of doing transfer. Okay, and then also it's very associated with BMI. So as we get a little bit bigger, we have a little bit more motion and force to push around. Oh, wow, that really doesn't look like the right color. Okay, so this was supposed to be red, but it's purple now. So the vascular anatomy of the shoulder is pretty poor, and especially when we talk about the small rotator cuff muscles that are actually surrounding the shoulder. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But we really just have one major artery supply to that area. And as we said before, with how many transfers everybody is doing, that is all that time you're ending up without blood flow to your shoulders. Okay, so let's talk about this. So what changes in biomechanics after a spinal cord injury? So it's really a kind of issue of stability versus mobility. So stability, if you have a spinal cord injury, you put on the weight for your hips. Look at this joint. You've got a great size ball and socket joint. You've got a huge amount of force that goes through this and great ligaments that actually cross over this. So it holds a lot of force, but isn't very mobile. You don't have legs that can come up over your head, right? At least not most of us. In terms of the shoulder, very, very different setup. Okay? There's only really one place that the shoulder actually attaches to your axial skeleton or the main skeleton and spine. And I'll explain that in a few minutes. So what I talked about before, and this is, and I don't mean to go down this as a rudimentary thing, but this is a very simplified version of the shoulder right now. So So I'm going to talk about a few of them. So we have this nice little fluid-filled sac up here that's going to try to protect all the rotator cuffs below it from the acromion, or that clavicular bone here, from being torn as you do any type of movement of your shoulder. Now that's helped by a lot of space, and we'll go over some x-rays here in a few minutes. But these are very small muscles that we're looking at. We're looking at the subscap, we're looking at the supraspinatus, which comes over, the biceps tendon, which is so commonly torn that we laugh about it being the Popeye muscle. Okay? We have muscles in the back, the infraspinatus and the teres minor. Now look at the skeleton of this, okay? Look at how much space there is here. Well, that's almost all filled up with these tendons and muscles. And then this is the only place that all of this connects to your body, okay? So it's really not a stable joint. But there's a reason behind that. That's why you can move your arm completely around. That's why you can move it across like this. So that's really the purpose of it. But it makes it difficult when you try to put your full body weight through it. Okay, so what is really important in terms of this scapula, which is actually the base of your shoulder? That's where the socket of your shoulder comes from. Well, we've got all these muscles in the back that a lot of the times we don't even focus on because we're not really paying attention to what's going on behind us. Okay, and that's going to be your rhomboids major, your rhomboids minor, your traps, your serratus anterior. These are going to be the things that actually connect your shoulder to your body, to your rib cage. All right, so when I talk to my patients about the shoulder, I've already kind of gone over a little bit, but I talk about it as a suspension bridge. Okay, so we have the nice, beautiful golden gate sitting right here. That's what we'd like to think our shoulders actually look like. Most of the time, and I'm going to say for myself included, our shoulders look more like this. You start to pull one of those muscles off, you release one of those cables, and all of a sudden you have a muscle path that looks more like the bottom picture. Okay, so let's talk about this muscle imbalance. So they actually did a study where they put a bunch of electrodes all over the shoulder, and were actually able to evaluate both the movement of the scapula or the shoulder blade, as well as the rest of the arm bones. So, and they actually showed, they did one in '93 and then another one in August of 2012, that with this study that there was a lot of difference after spinal cord injury and with pain about the shoulder motion. Okay, so when we see this, pretty much what this tells you, it's a lot of graphs, it's kind of unnecessary, I apologize. But what this does tell you is that the scapular motion changes drastically when we see a patient with pain. Okay, so the question is the scapular motion changing before the pain? Is it the cause of the pain, or is it the response to the pain? And it's that whole chicken-egg issue. We don't really have an answer for that yet. Okay, so what are shoulder exercises? How do we fix this? How do we prevent this? Okay? Whenever I talk to my patients, it's, what are you guys doing for shoulder exercises? Oh, okay, doc, I'm doing shoulder exercises all the time. And it's most of the time this. Okay? So it's butterflies. It's overhead lifts. When you think of the shoulder, you think of the deltoid muscle. And this is actually probably the worst muscle that you can strengthen. So, why is that? Okay, so I talked to you about those small muscles. They usually come right through here. You can see how much space is here on an x-ray. This is a healthy shoulder. Okay, this is really what it should look like. This is what it looks like most of the time. Okay? You have no space here. What's happening to all those muscles, all those tendons that are going through that space? They're getting crushed. Every single time you move that, this is the equivalent of bone on bone. Okay? You are tearing up those tendons every single time we move our shoulders. Why does this happen? One, we get weak. Okay? We get weak in those muscles that are actually attaching here and coming down on the back side and pulling that bone down. So anytime that we have muscles like your latissimus dorsi, like your serratus anterior, like your subscapularis, your infraspinatus. These are all muscles that are going to help to pull that arm bone or that humerus down away from the acromion. And let's look at the deltoid right here. So this is that, hey, we're doing shoulder exercises, right? So if we start to build this up, this attaches to the acromion and the clavicle and comes down and attaches to the bone. You can imagine that as we strengthen that muscle, it's going to actually pull that arm bone up, and that's exactly what happens. All right, so how do we prevent that from happening? Okay, and it's really to strengthen these guys in the back. Luckily, a lot of these muscles are actually innervated from high up in the cervical spine. Okay? So these are all still available to you after even high spinal cord injuries. But we don't think about them a lot because they're back here. Okay, again, I want to look at this image again. Look at all this stuff coming right under here. If you're building up that deltoid muscle, you're crushing that area. And truthfully, you guys, every single time you're doing a transfer, you're using your deltoid. Okay, you guys actually build up very, very strong deltoids with just doing your daily life. Okay, so let's go back to this guy. All right, so poor transfers. All right, I'm going to beat a dead horse on this one a little bit. But they went through and did multiple questionnaires as well as some very intensive exams by physical therapists on patients and their transfers. And they found that actually people with, quote, better transfers or more technical transfers actually had a lot less shoulder pain. Okay? Now, can we fix that? Of course. Okay? Can we go back and learn how to do a technical transfer? There's going to be times at which in our lives, as we start to progress and our shoulders get worse, we're going to have to change the transfers that we do. Okay, now, this is a big one. How do we prevent injury? Okay, so there's been numerous studies, and you'll hear people go, oh my gosh, no overhead lifting, no overhead lifting. You guys can't do that, all right? There's no such thing as like no overhead lifting. You have to be able to live your life. But you want to limit it as much as humanly possible. So a lot of the times where it used to be back in the days, everyone would end up with a trapeze over their head to really make it more functional and make it so that they could actually do more of their dressing, their lower body dressing, things like that. Nowadays, it's rare that you see a trapeze over a hospital bed. And the reason behind that is it puts a huge amount of strain in on your shoulders. And we don't want to start out that way. Okay? There's also been more studies on the degree of upper arm elevation actually reflects shoulder pain and load. So it's not just, am I reaching overhead, but it's the difference from 90 degrees and up that actually can be shown to have results on shoulder pain. All right, so again, prevention and early intervention. So I'm going to go back a little bit to the 2005 clinical practice guidelines. This is something that a couple of my colleagues at the VA were actually part of. And this is a really important document in terms of what can we do for our shoulders. Okay, so one is, I think all of us need to keep track of the number of non-level transfers we do a day. So that guy trying to climb into his truck, but you can barely even see his chair. All right, so every single time he's getting up in that truck and getting down, he's probably causing damage to his shoulders. Okay, so how can we decrease that in a day? All right, this is also a big one. Discuss with your team, with your doctors, with your therapists, with your caregivers about the techniques and equipment that can be used, because things change as we get older. Okay, I'm not going to tell you that if you do everything right, if you do all of your shoulder exercises, you keep your range of motion up, your shoulders are going to be fine for your entire life. Unfortunately, our shoulders aren't meant to be our hips. And so we're constantly fighting against this. Also, discuss with team members and have them attempt to decrease the weight of the chair. And this is something that has been done really well here at Valley and even in the surrounding community, is that we have really pushed for these ultralight chairs. If you're pushing around your chair all day, You need it to be as light as possible. And then patients, I put this on all of us. Monitor your weight, okay? Work with your providers, whether that's your primary care providers, whether that's your spinal cord injury, your PM&R. How can we work to stay active and to keep our BMIs down, okay? And really I put that to your overall weight, because if you start working out like crazy and going to the gym and really exercising and doing everything right, you'll actually notice your BMI kind of goes up. So that doesn't correlate. All right, so discuss with your doctors and therapists on setup and propulsion techniques. A lot of the times as we get lazy, we start slouching, we start pushing very small, we grab way back on our chair and yank forward. And that actually starts to pull on the biceps, and that causes that Popeye muscle that ends up ripping off, and you see this big bulge, okay? Really, the propulsion should be in a manual chair, should be done almost 100% with your triceps. And that's not something that's usually done, okay? We want to, again, limit the number of overhead activities in a day. Discuss with your doctors and therapists about work-related activities, because the goal really is to get back to living, right? After an injury like this, and part of that is work. And so getting back to work, well, sometimes some of these activities can be repetitive stress injuries. And so really working with the therapist on trying to limit that. Discuss with your team about the current exercise program. This is as important as anything else that I'm going to say. And that is doing your rotator cuff exercises, which is your bands, really working on the small muscles of your shoulders, the scapular stabilizers, that's those rhomboids, those traps, those serratus anterior. That every day is what's going to make a difference for you in the future. Okay, posture and positioning. This usually gets a little bit of an uproar, so I apologize if I upset anybody, but I'm happy to take questions. All right, so one of the big things is maintaining spinal curvatures. So I've only been at the Valley really for a couple of days, and I think a lot of the therapists already realize that I'm constantly asking for lumbar support, okay? The position of your spine, of your posture, makes a huge difference on the stress on your shoulders and the biomechanics of your shoulders as you push. Ensuring that the pelvis and trunk are symmetric and equally weighted. Some of this is trying to move away from, say, a Roho cushion if you don't have skin problems, and trying to get more to that stability instead of the mobility that's happening below you. When your arms are naturally hanging, and I wait for everyone to kind of drop their arms, it should be at the tip of the axis should be at the tip of the center of the finger, approximately mid-real axis. So you should be right there, right when you kind of drop your arms, it should be comfortably resting there. So luckily, we have a great community here, which gets everyone set up with really nice chairs. Everyone is fitted for their chairs nicely. But here's a gentleman that allowed me to take a picture and said, oh yeah, because he thought he was incredible, his posture was really good. So we can all sit here and comment upon his posture. The shoulders are actually very anterior at a good position on his reels. And part of the reason for that is you see this swing back. He doesn't really have a lot of pressure pushing forward. And a lot of patients come up to me and say, Doc, it just gets uncomfortable when you put lumbar support in there and it feels like I'm going to fall over. It's true, especially if you've had an injury for a while. It gets really scary. But it's something that as we progress slowly and start to build up that lumbar support and transition to a fixed back, you actually notice that the strength really happens and starts to build up in the back of your arms and the back of your shoulders and really supports your shoulders, and you notice that the pain actually decreases a little bit. Okay, and this is something that I think everybody in this room understands, okay? And that's that quality of life is drastically changed by shoulder pain. Makes sense. Every single time you have to transfer, every single time you have to get out of bed, every single time you have to brush your teeth, if your shoulders are hurting, you're not going to want to do that, right? Okay, so this is a really important aspect. And again, one of my biggest issues and one of the reasons why I really push shoulder health after a spinal cord injury is I want everybody to be active. Okay, that's what really makes everybody, the people that I've talked to, whether it's active in work, whether it's active in sports, whether it's active in their daily life, there's a reason why all this happens. Okay, and if you just spend the whole day in bed because your shoulders hurt, it really takes away from that quality of life. Okay, so a couple more things. Early diagnosis, early. Talk to your team, please, as much as possible. Be like, hey, my shoulders are starting to hurt. Okay, we expect them to hurt. That's just something that's going to happen, but we should be helping you along with that process. So what can we do in terms of exercise? How can we manipulate your chair? How can we work to actually get the right medication on board so that your shoulders are not causing you pain? Okay, so I was lucky enough to be at the Palo Alto VA at a good time when this became an issue. So I was actually set up as the director of a clinic there really for shoulder health. And we were able to get some nice ultrasound machines, which we now have at Valley Med. And as part of the MSK clinic, we're actually able to use those to be able to evaluate your shoulders. And that's not just in, hey, how's your shoulder feeling, and let's get an MRI, but we can actually see as you move your arm how the muscles are getting impinged or damaged, okay? So this is really cool technology that exists out there and is only getting better. So please talk to us about it. Okay, this is my team. Any questions? Sorry, I was just married 16 days ago. Okay, lots of references. There's a lot of information there, okay? What can I answer for people?
I have one question.
Yeah.
What are some more specific exercises to build up those long muscles back there?
Yeah, so one of the big things that I like to push nowadays. Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot about that. All right, so the question was, what are some more specifics that we can do from a exercise standpoint to really help build up the rhomboids, help build up the scapular stabilizers? So one of my favorite exercises, and it also helps with cardiovascular, is actually rowing. So rowing. So if done right, making sure to lead with the elbows, you're actually going to really build up that posterior aspect of your muscles, posterior aspect of your shoulders, as well as your infraspinatus, your scapular stabilizers, and it's going to get your heart rate up. Okay? So there is adaptive rowing out there, and I know that there's a couple of studies that are really starting to push this, and they're doing it more for bone health, and I'm trying to get them to really focus on shoulder health as part of that. But adaptive rowing really can make a huge difference. Okay? Yeah.
Say adaptive rowing, but what about for us that we can get adaptive rowing? What do you suggest before we're sitting down in a chair? Is there any suggestions that you have?
Yeah, definitely. So there's always ways to do things. Bands.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay. Who's going to keep doing this to me? All right. So the question was, that's great for those people that can actually find adaptive rowing. What about the people that can't? And I really respect that question. So there's always ways to modify things. I actually do the majority of my exercise using bands. Okay, and so doing more of a plyometric type exercise. And what I do is actually wrap the band around the doorknob, and I'll actually sit in a chair and pull backwards in a rowing type motion with the bands. Okay, and a lot of your therapists are more than happy to get you gradations of bands. And there are some bands out there that are really impressive in terms of their weight. Okay, but again, we're talking about small muscles. So It's not going to feel like when you're done, you get up and, hey, when you used to work out, you're incredibly sore, you're tired, you're like, that was a really good exercise. But you're going to notice after 2 weeks, after 3 weeks, that your shoulders aren't hurting as bad, okay? That your posture is different. That as you start to do your transfers, you're going to feel your shoulders actually depress a little bit. And that's good, okay? Other exercises are extensions, where you can actually have your arms straight and push back. Same idea, attach your bands to a door. And then the ones that I know your therapists, all your therapists have taught you, and that's the internal rotation, the external rotation, okay? Those are going to be really important for you. But the thing that we usually do, and I do it in the gym too, is I sit there and I try to push myself, okay? And I watch my form go out the window. Okay, so it really, those are small muscles. We're trying to really work those small muscles. We're not trying to make them huge and big. We're trying to make them nice and healthy.
I have a question from the online community here. It says, is there a website or resource showing various exercises for SCI individuals? Something visual.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I actually do not know if that exists. But that's definitely something we should put together. Now, you're going to ask me to repeat that, aren't you?
Yeah.
Damn it. Okay. So the question was, is there something out there in terms of a website that actually has visuals for some of these exercises? And I have to tell you, I don't know of anyone out there unless one of the people in the audience does.
Yeah, so the bottom there is an exercise therapies. There's a website that shows specific exercises that people start according to this. And pictorial is I'm never reading the website. There's a link to that, and that is specific exercises and pictorial videos people looking at with some target specific things.
Well, somewhere on YouTube you can find pretty much everything.
Yeah. So, yeah, obviously, YouTube nowadays, you can find anything. And I am going to put a comment out there. Be careful with what you look at on the internet.
What about swimming?
Swimming is a great exercise. The problem is a lot of times we the question was, what about swimming? Swimming is a great exercise, but a lot of the times we end up doing freestyle, and that actually can crush the supraspinatus and the subscapularis just as much as all the other overhead activities do. So I would actually recommend, if you're going to do swimming, really breaststroke and backstroke.
I'm inspired watching the Olympics.
Oh, yeah. They've been amazing.
What about possible pain that is not really specified? Which part is hurt? Is it generally hurt in the tightest bundle?
Yeah, so the question was, what about more of that chronic, just generalized pain? And again, one of the things that I think we need to reiterate is that it's really important for us all to be a team with our providers. And that includes our physical therapists, our occupational therapists, and our physicians. Because it's important to be able to diagnose what's going on, okay? And be able to say, hey, this is coming from this specific muscle, or hey, maybe you have a partial tear of this tendon, okay? And sometimes you have, unfortunately, our shoulders get very tight and we end up with something like adhesive capsulitis, which actually makes it so that we can't raise our shoulders anymore. But there's a lot that your physicians can actually do for that, okay, to help out.
Being a high quad, I don't have any use of my arms, but I do have a constant pain in my shoulders. What can those of us with no movement do to find their shoulder muscles and or just decrease pain?
Okay. So the question was, in the setting of a high quad, so someone without really the use of their arms. And I'm going to reiterate the importance of having your team involved. But there's a lot of different types of pain out there, and sometimes actually some of that can be neuropathic in origin. and with appropriate treatment can actually improve drastically. But what can we do to help out just your shoulders? Well, do you need to actually be holding on to that band and squeezing backwards? Sometimes not. Sometimes actually just doing those, raising the shoulders and bringing them back and holding, and some of those isometric, meaning without weights, can actually be very beneficial for all those muscle groups as well.
So basically just constantly all day sit here doing this.
It's actually kind of funny. A lot of my patients at the VA, every single time I would walk around, they would do this. So obviously it's going to get tiring doing that, right? And I purposely didn't bring up a lot of the actual diagnoses and injuries that can happen to the shoulder, because there's a huge variety. And unfortunately, it really takes that discussion with your physician to be able to figure out what is actually causing the pain in your shoulder, okay? What I want today is to empower all of you that there's something that can be done, okay? Beyond just, hey, I've taken my shoulder too far and they just aren't going to work anymore, okay? That shouldn't ever be a thought in your head, okay? There is always something that you guys can do. There is always something that your team can do, because otherwise what happens? You just end up spending all your time at home and you end up, not being able to do what you want to do in your life. Okay? Any questions?
Would you have to do a transfer into like a non-level high car, high SUV? It's best not to use it.
Yeah, okay, so the question was when you have to do a transfer into an unlevel surface. And everyone does, okay? I'm not saying, and there's no part in this where I said don't do it, okay? But yeah, not using that upper bar, when possible, okay? There's always going to be those situations where it's not safe not to, okay? And so it is one of those things, depending on your level of injury, where I'll ask, I feel like I'm just constantly putting off a lot of your questions to our occupational or our physical therapist, but there's huge resource for you. That's the same thing for your physicians as well. Okay, if you notice, hey, every single time that I'm reaching up there and grabbing onto that and pulling up, especially if it's your car, maybe you might want to talk with the therapist and be like, hey, this is hurting me a lot. Is there anything I should be doing different? But obviously, first and foremost, is going to be safety. Is that your car?
No.
Okay. Any other questions, you guys? I know we have a really exciting presentation coming up, so. Yeah.
Are you sharing your information with other spinal cord injury clinics, such as like Kaiser, Vallejo, places like that? We have Kaiser, so we can't just go to Valley. We would have to go all the way to Vallejo. So it'd be nice to have Kaiser informed of, like, if you needed to go back and do some more rehab.
Yeah, no, so the question was, I'm getting better at that. So it's a slow learning curve, but it happens. So the question was, am I sharing some of, and I hope some of it is just the enthusiasm for really paying attention to what's going on with the body and then the shoulders. Yeah, I am actually. I'm one of the faculty for the SCI, the Stanford SCI Fellowship. And we actually have already one of my graduates as one of the spinal cord injury docs there at Vallejo Kaiser. So, yes, definitely.
Thank you. Okay, and then not necessarily a question, but more of a resource. I don't know if we could talk about other medical facilities, but there actually is a really amazing video that Kaiser put out by a gal who's a friend of a friend. She's an amazing woman. She's actually a quad, and she does a workout video with quads that are paras, just doing shoulder exercises, and it's kind of like aerobics and add weight to it too, but, just doing all these kinds of motions,
Great.
Exactly what you're talking about, and like it gets your heart rate up.
Yeah.
Or, specifically moving the muscles. But I just wish that was told about me I've been paralyzed for over 15 years, and I was, video existed way before, but I'm aware of it now. I would like to encourage every single human being to use their arms as much as you do to use that video. But it's something that it's important to know to do it every day. Now, it's also something that's not brought to my attention. Even in the video, I believe it says, if you do it a couple times a week or talk to your doctor, but I think it is, after this past, couple of years, it is very important to do it every single day. Not just 3 times a week, even if it's just 20 minutes. Save your life and extend your lifeline to do whatever you want to do a lot longer.
And let me reiterate to that organizations like this one that put on talks like this and that have multiple people together, this really makes a huge difference because you'll find things online. Spread the information. There's no reason to hold on to it nowadays, right? We need to share everything because someone out there is having the same problems that you are. Yeah, I know. That's a really good point.
Just a comment, so that video was made from part of the network.
Yeah.
The other side is talking about the physical therapy exercises on the phone, and then something where I'm all over the God.
Good. Yes.
I agree with that rowing is a good exercise, I do that, but at one point I do it every day. But I find out that you should rest that day and then do the other day, and you improve much faster, and then the body has some recovery time.
We'll switch it up a little bit, don't you, Mary, and all the time.
It's just rolling.
Yeah, so one of the points that was brought up, just so that everybody hears, is that, strenuous activity, doing it every day, can actually be a little bit less effective than giving yourself a break in between. But really one of the things that I was pushing for is not full-fledged strenuous activity every day, but it's that small muscle rotator cuffs, small amounts of weight every day that's really going to keep those muscles and keep those tendons strong. Doing things like active rowing, doing that 4 times a week is probably a better way to build up that muscle. And then there's a lot of different websites and personal trainers and everybody out there that can help you with different protein shakes and things to help build up those muscles. But right now, I would really reiterate trying to get those small muscles to be healthy every single day of your life. Okay? All right, I don't want to take away from a really exciting presentation coming up next.
Thank you again.